Hello, lovelies. I was sitting at my desk working on something entirely different when the spirit gave me a little nudge and told me to sit down and read. So I'm here and I'm present. I'm just going to acknowledge the divine and call in those energies before I begin to read. I thank you for your presence, your support, and guidance. I thank you for your comfort, grace, and protection. I honor you and ask that you preside over this work. Ashe, Ashe, Amin, and Amen. Okay, I have absolutely no idea what the nature of this reading is. And as I split the deck, I have the Nine of Cups and the Ace of Cups here. As I begin to shuffle. So we'll see if this is about wish fulfillment, personal satisfaction, just love, happiness, connection. And the Empress card also wanting to make an appearance as well. So perhaps attracting those things. Soul family is a term that just came to mind. Soul family. Family in general. Connecting to people who see you eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul, and perhaps our overall need as a collective to lean more into that energy of empathy and surrender, that defensiveness, that preoccupation with needing to be right, with needing to be in control, with needing to have some form of authority here. Yeah, holding on. Holding onto your power, withholding your energy instead of truly leaning in and nurturing it. All right, so I'm beginning to get a clearer picture of what it is here. So let's see what comes out. Okay. It's a chunky message today. And I see there's a card that's flipped over into the deck, and I want to ensure. I believe it was, I thought it was a Justice card. It was the Hierophant. The Hierophant hiding in the deck. I don't believe any other cards were flipped over. Okay, I did see the Justice card on the pre-shuffle as I was cleansing the space. So I wonder if we're going to have that message come back up. And we'll take them in the order that they fell out. So what we have here, it's funny that we get these energies crossing each other, right? This hard work. What's difficult for you to walk away from? What's difficult for you to surrender? What's difficult for you to overcome? These 10 wands, the other day I did a reading for a client, and as I read for her, I did not see these wands the way that I see them today. When I read them for her, I saw them as her carrying that assortment of her hopes and her dreams, those passions, those desires. You know, wands can represent inspiration. It's the spark. It's that, that divine leadership, that origin. It's, when you light a match and it begins to take on the flame, it's that torch that you carry to light the way onto your next endeavor. And when I read them for her, I could see that stop and start energy of, you struck a match and you thought it was gonna light, but it didn't. The accelerant didn't quite catch, or you struck a match and it lit for a little while and then it fizzled out, it burned out, or you went to strike a match and then the match itself broke. And that energy is kind of coming back up today. So I'm seeing it both in the way of being so very close to walking away from something that's holding you back, or at least here making the conscious effort to put some of these wands down. You see, he's only got the one walking staff with him as he moves forward. He's releasing those burdens. So I'm thinking of this in the way of the imagery of the Fool card, which, if you haven't seen the video where I do that deep dive analysis of some of the more esoteric things that you can discern from that card in the major arcana, I would encourage you to go see it, unpack it, learn what you can from that video. But when I describe what the Fool is carrying, they call that a wand, and I see that also as a bindle stiff. And when you look that up, that term, it's gonna bring an image to mind of like that transient sort of feeling where you put your worries, you put your little bandana full of your cares, or full of your items, your possessions, on that little stick, and you throw it over your shoulder, and you get to walking, you get on your journey, you go on your merry way. And just looking at this, I see the connections here. All of these figures are wearing red indicating that color of passion. And then here we see in the background so much blue. We see all these cups. We see all this blue here. So what does that tell us? There's so much emotion that's involved in this. There's so much that you're passionate about, so much that you want to move forward with, and you're overwhelmed by this. Perhaps overwhelmed by the things that you want to do, overwhelmed with the power, the ambition, the dreams, and feeling as if you can't do it all. So you've got to pick one and carry it with you moving forward. And it's hard for you to narrow that down. It's hard for you to strip those other items away, for you to release what doesn't serve you and just take what you can. You're emotionally connected to those things. You're emotionally connected to some people, to some beliefs that you need to release. And it starts out here with the lighter blue, or, just like a true blue here in the Ten of Wands. And then with the Eight of Cups, we see this darken. It almost takes on like a purpley hue. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the difference here in the cards as you look at them. This one is actually lighter than this one. So it's like with that deepness, it becomes more intense. Dealing with cups, we of course connect to the energy of water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, and just with the moon being present, really leaning into that Cancer and Pisces energy connected to the moon. And with them being clothed here, the color of their pants is also drawing my attention, and then brown. So when you think about color theory here, how do you get brown? You get brown by mixing together all of the primary colors, or mixing together all of the complementary colors. So think of that as like the fullness of your chakras, right? The fullness of your being. And with them being on Pisces, being on the feet, it's like you don't quite see all that you are. You also don't quite see all that you're heading into here with the Eight of Swords. Whatever it is that you're walking toward, whatever growth that you're moving toward, whatever that development is, it's almost as if you don't see the progress. You don't see how you've grown. You don't see how your investments are going to play out. You don't see what you've overcome, what you've released. You don't see that growth, but it's taken place. Something in you has changed, and you can't see it. And I feel this heaviness in you where there's some criticism here in the Eight of Swords, where you're just like incredibly heavy in that energy, where you're so hard on yourself and you limit your own potential in this moment. So what we notice about the sky here, again, blue representing, those emotional qualities, I'm seeing this as a sense of detachment from other people. And unfortunately, though, one of the ways that you can read that detachment is a sense of self-absorption. And I'm not sure how that's going to hit you in the chest, or if it will or if it won't. But some therapists may explain it to you this way: as when you find yourself in those moments of self-deprecation, what you're doing is obsessing over yourself. You're spending so much time going, woe is me, my problems. And it's fine for you to have those moments where you center yourself. We're all the main character in our life stories, right? That's just how our perspective moves us through the world. But there's just this energy here of, because you are so focused on the wrongs, you're unable to see what's right. You're unable to see the growth. You're unable to see the change. So we see him here. We see this figure that's walking away again with the brown pants, and then them turning green relating to those earth energies, that growth, those pentacles, that time, that energy, the attention. You not seeing the investment come to fruition in the way that you've wanted to, whatever this is that you've been attached to, and it breaks your heart to think about the ways in which you'll have to put them down. So what I find interesting here is when we look at the progression of these wands, or just looking at how they are present throughout these cards, we start with 10 here and then go down to 1. You can choose to view the handle of the hoe or the shovel that he's holding, the tool that he has, as that same singular wand. But then here, there are 8. There's movement. And then you pick up, you have two double terminated wands, which in a way is like having 4. Like, what you think you're about to lose, what you think you're sacrificing, will multiply here in the future. I don't know if that came out right, if it's going to make sense for who it needs to make sense for, but it's giving me like that experience of like Job. You had something, you had so much, and then you had to release it in order to begin to gain. You had to empty those cups. You had to become an empty vessel in order to be able to receive. And you start with 1, and then that doubles, and then that doubles into 4. Do you see where I'm going here? So it eventually will turn out in your favor. It's just right now you're in this energy right here. You're in that energy of lack. You're not seeing the growth. You're not seeing the change. You're not seeing just how far you've come. And that's something that you need to celebrate. Those small things, those small moments of growth, you need to celebrate that. In the clarification deck, we have the Knight of Swords and the Lovers coming through. So just keep that energy in the background. We had these cards fall out, and one of them landed directly onto the Hierophant, and I'll take that to be in connection with it. So we did end up getting justice after all. The duality here coming up, what I notice immediately is that we have one person who is clothed in robes with roses. We have another person who is clothed in perhaps garb with morning glories. And the color matters White is usually assigned to purity, but also to mourning. Red assigned to passion, to love, but also to anger. So there could be a need for balance, for harmony, for justice here. And because we had justice come out in this particular position, a great feeling connected to this sense of just being wronged, feeling as if things are not balanced right now. A detail about the Hierophant here is that because this is an authoritative figure, it's representing institutions. It's representing the old ways, the traditions, the things that we uphold, the way that it used to be, how it's always been. And with the keys here, we see that there's that additional symbol of authority here. He is crowned. He's been appointed to this position, but are they appropriate to lead? Do they deserve the honor that's being given to them? Are they using that authority wisely? Are they cursing one person and blessing another, or vice versa? Are they sharing that information, that knowledge, or are they withholding it? Is there control? Is that what's causing this Eight of Swords moment for you? Are you just in that energy of overwhelm for where you're just like so bogged down with what's going on around you here? And not even in a complete sense. When you see the, I don't know why I'm thinking about the Nine of Wands card right now, but I do see a parallel here between the Eight of Swords and the Nine of Wands, primarily because of the position of these swords behind her, forming a hedge as if she's not necessarily trapped. She's trying to protect herself from her emotions with her mind. She's not looking at her emotions. She's not trying to make sense of them. She's not trying to make peace with them. She's trying to completely distance herself from how she's feeling emotionally, even though she's in it. She's in that water, but she's not balancing it well. She's just so caught up in her thoughts here. To invest it, perhaps, like, I think of this as like ruminating thoughts. I know the Nine of Swords is typically what some people would think of as like ruminating thoughts. You play those nightmare scenarios over and over and over again, but I can also see that beginning here in the Eight of Swords is that progression. So where you are in this moment where you're like, things are so imbalanced, I feel stuck. I feel stuck. I feel trapped. I feel like I'm not getting what's owed to me. Things are not being made right. I want you to take some initiative to make them right. Better to ask for forgiveness than permission is what just came up. For some of you, if this is regarding a relationship, you may need to be the individual who begins that contact. So if you're having those moments where you're like, I'm not getting what I thought I deserved from this connection, I invested a ton of time into this, and you only broke my heart, you stepped on it, whatever. If you're not having that conversation, if you're not being transparent with them about how you feel about it, how are you going to begin correction if you're not sharing? Yeah, the Four of Pentacles show up there during the shuffle, and it just brought that to mind. It's like withholding those thoughts, withholding those emotions, not necessarily communicating, and also not realizing how much power you have to bring things into balance. You could write this, you share the right information. Let's see what these two are. Ace of Swords here for clarity, and the Eight of Pentacles with that investment. Okay. So very often, when I see this card and I read the way that these pentacles are aligned, I see that they're still working on one, and then there's one more beneath them. And it's like these are the main 7 chakras, yes, and then there's one more soul star, which, depending on how you interpret it, can be in one of 2 locations. Some people see it as like an additional one that is not actually connected to the body but hovers over the head. And some people view it as one that sits within the body, that is between the lower chakras, meaning that there are 4 lower chakras, and then for the 4 higher chakras. So when we get through this, when we get to this point where we're willing to open up, where we're willing to share this information, where we're willing to look back over this and assess what this is getting us, how far it's taking us, and we want to bring this thing into balance. You notice here with the Yads and the 8 of Swords that they're balanced on both sides. They're balanced here. There's fairness again, and there's divinity at work to bring this balance into play. So I think that that does align particularly with what's going on here with the Sword of Truth, with the Sword of Justice. Also getting that energy of like as above, so below here, just needing to bring things into harmony. So whether this is you trying to, I don't necessarily want to use the word, but it's just what's coming to mind. Alchemize. If this is you attempting to alchemize, transmute that particular situation, to pull these 3 swords out of your heart, to put your doubts, your fears, your anxieties to rest, to settle that anguish and move forward and achieve, to ascend to your next level of growth, of progress. It's going to require you taking that necessary step to create some clarity. So whether it is you are cutting away what doesn't serve in you in an emotional sense, in a mental sense, if you're just, invested in self-development, of course, because when we look at these pentacle cards, we just see the one figure in them. So for some people that this reading may find, it may just be that it's you investing and working on yourself, you checking yourself about the lies, the things that you've told yourself that you need to adhere to. This could be you checking yourself about the conditions that you've set, the expectations that you've set, the standard that you've set for yourself to uphold, and recognizing what's realistic and what's unattainable. The crown on this figure's head is unfathomable. It's a grandiose display of wealth that some people may find in complete excess. And, by modern standards, maybe something that's incredibly out of reach for most people to receive in their lifetime, right? This is an exorbitant display of wealth. So I think of that as just like you maybe correcting the thought process or the beliefs or the motivations behind what you tell yourself you are and are not allowed to have in this lifetime, which is great. You're trying to ground yourself here. You're trying to be realistic. You're trying to take an approach where you're working on the things that you can change and surrendering the things that you cannot. So where they say that these are his cups and he's finally put them down and he's walked away from them, we did see the 9 of cups on the split, and that's what comes next, is that ability for you to have that sense of fulfillment, for you to reach that level of connection with yourself, security with yourself, where you're able to invite other people in, and where you have the authority within yourself, within your spirit, to be able to welcome the appropriate people who are worthy of getting these cups from you. When you look at the 9 of Cups, that figure is sitting with all of those cups behind him. Like they're not necessarily like they're guarding them, but in a way where you know that they get to decide who gets to come and partake. I'm handing them out like trophies. I can choose carefully. You get one, you don't. You get access to this information. Other people don't. You get access to my energy, to my feelings. These other people don't. Are they going to misuse my gifts? Are they going to take advantage of my sense of connection, my empathy? Are they going to draw too deeply from my well and exhaust me? And that could be something that's incredibly necessary for you to discover at this time. And that could very well be a part of the message that you're getting at this moment, is just you can't be all things to all people. And that could very well have been a part of the burden that you've been carrying. As you may have a lot of ideas, a wealth of emotion, so much on your mind, and only so much energy. Only so much that you can invest. Only so much that you've been able to grow. And you have to break your own heart by deciding what you can and cannot give to. And you also have to decide what it is that can come with you. Usually when we see the world, we interpret that as like a closure, the ending of a cycle. But this is also that period where you merge those energies of both sides of yourself into a single vessel that's capable of carrying forward and completing the next leg of your journey, if that makes sense. So I would like to see what additional cards are meant to go along with this message, if any at all. Now, I do not have any reversals in the deck, so I do find it interesting that we did have that come out in that particular position. We have the Ace of Swords again on the bottom and the King of Pentacles on the top. The King of Pentacles is very much the energy of a provider. They have a lot. They're sitting on a lot. They have a lot to give. Yeah. So what do we see here? What did I tell you about that energy of like a blessing and a curse? Healing and hurting. Throwing rocks and hiding your hand. With the Devil in this position, this is a very good thing though. Because this tells me that you are someone who is putting yourself in an energy where you're able to appropriately assess what is good for you and releasing that need for perhaps external validation. Maybe you would only do something if you had the praise or the approval of someone else. You needed that to come from someone else so that you could feel secure in the things that you were doing. And at this particular moment, you are finding out, I no longer need someone else's permission. I don't need anyone else to light the fire under my butt to get me going. I can do this on my own. I can do this on my of my own volition, and I'm not bound to this individual. I'm overcoming that attachment. I'm overcoming that codependency. I'm overcoming that addiction, whatever form of addiction it is. We see the figures in this card. There is some nudity at play here. So let me go ahead and just drop that, my little parental advisory sticker. But one of the details that you can't see, I can at least poke out this much, is that you can see that they have these horns on their heads. So the reason why they have those horns on their heads is in part to represent their carnal nature. We have fleshy bodies. You see these horns and they're meant to, emulate that primal energy, those instinctive, inherent desires, those things that are just ingrained in us. And when we talk about the things that are ingrained in us, know that trauma is also stored in our DNA. Generations of trauma stored in our DNA. And it is up to us individually to live through, to heal through, to move through all of that our ancestors experienced in order to come out clean on the other side here. Not entirely clean, a little bit cleaner each go around, right? Seeing these chakras, you know, they connect back to like that energy of, you know, things you can accrue and spend, but also those cycles for me, like samsara, like that cycle of life and death and rebirth. So if this is something that you've attempted several times in the past to overcome and it has not been successful for you, this is the moment where you get down to perfecting the method. This is the moment when you finally realize, I'm ready and I'm overcoming these self-limiting thoughts. I'm ready and I'm overcoming the fear and the anxiety and doubt. I'm ready and I'm overcoming those past experiences of imbalance. If it's imbalance in yourself, in your center, in your sense of emotional stability, mental stability, where you're feeling like, I don't know what the F is going on. I've got absolutely no direction that I'm going in. Whatever it is that's going to occur for you, I see that light switch it's going to click. And in that moment, you'll have that realization that helps you to right the scales and bring it into balance. That'll lead you to this outcome. That'll lead you to releasing whatever this unhealthy attachment is, where you're finally able to just drop it and say, I'm done. You don't need that to hold you down. I had a message earlier in the year on Blue Sky. Well, earlier in the year, it's only the 7th. What day is it? It's today the 8th. It's only, you know, it's early. We've only just barely been here. But one of the earlier messages that I had, that I posted, was basically just like the old you can't hold you. That's all it said. That's all I said. The old you can't hold you. So consider this devil here, the old you. And you're letting that go. And Spirit just said, that's it, and that's all I'll call it. So the old you can't hold you. So moving forward, you're going to have, this you reuniting with yourself in a way, you finding that sense of collaboration and connection. If you want to think of this Three of Pentacles as you connecting with yourself in 3 persons, your id, your ego, your super ego, those 3 facets of you energetically, like your physical body, your spiritual body, your mental capacities or faculties, all coming to the table and saying, we got this and we know where we're going. That divine guidance with the Chariot there. A detail about this card with the Chariot is this is meant to be the exact same city that lingers in the background of the Death card. And the Chariot is meant to represent the one person who was like, I see this trouble and I'm getting the F up out of here before death comes to knock everything over. The one person who had the wherewithal to be like, you know what? Y'all got it. I'm out. The good sense to know when to walk away. And I'll leave that there. I'll leave that there. I think that's enough. Um, I don't feel the need to pull any other cards or clarifiers. I think that's all of the message that I was asked to deliver. So if you've been sitting in that energy where you're concerned about what is it I'm meant to be doing? Am I heading in the right way? I need this reassurance. I need somebody else to tell me. You're about to step into an era of your life where can't it literally is, it's coming out this way. I don't speak like this. It's very much, can't nobody tell me shit. You can't beat my ass. It's very much a person who is recognizing how much power they actually have and choosing to wield it to improve themselves and to move forward in a very, very beautiful way. So whoever this message finds, I hope that this empowers you. I hope that this puts you on the right path. I hope that this has helped you in some way. And if you'd like to subscribe for additional readings or deep dives, you're more than welcome to. I'd appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next reading.